All right, welcome back, the Global Genius. All right, so in this session, we will be talking about test area element. Okay, we have talked about input, we have talked about label. So let's talk about the test area element. Okay, so the test area element is used to create multi-line test input field, allowing users to enter longer pieces of text, such as comments, messages, or descriptions. The normal input that we have is just a one-line text, and it will allow you to enter multiple text. But whenever you have the need for users to enter multiple line text, okay, something like you want them to enter comment, you want them to enter plenty message or description, you should use the text area. But if you need something like first name, their username, their password, you actually use the normal input, okay? But if you want something that will span across multiple lines, you use the text area. So that is what we use the text area for, okay? So what is the basic syntax? As simple as this. Text area, then you can give it a name, you give it rows and columns, and you enter your, you don't even need to enter this message. Yeah, so let me show you. Okay, so if I come here, I could always remember to use your label. Okay, I can say enter your comment. Enter your comment, okay? And I would give it instead of using the explicit association, I could actually use the implicit association, okay? All right, let's code as pros, all right? So I use the implicit association, and I can have the test area like this, all right? So the test area, let's forget about the attributes for now. We'll talk about the attributes later on. So if I do this thing now, go to the browser, all right, this is what I have, all right. But moreover, you can actually use CSS to actually style this thing better, but this is not a class of CSS, okay? So now you can see I can actually expand. Do you understand? I can actually expand, but the other one, you cannot expand. You can't expand, all right? You see this one, you can actually expand, okay? But the normal input, you cannot expand. So this is what it looks like, okay? All right. So now, if you have anything in between as the content of the test area, you're going to see it inside, but we don't want that. So if I have anything like in between like this, if I have anything, okay, if I have blah, 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 all right, this blah, blah, blah will be available. You will see it inside, is the content, all right? So, but the thing is that if you don't want it, you cannot remove it, okay? But for me, I don't see it necessary being there. I could actually use placeholder, all right? I could actually use placeholder. Okay, so what are the attributes of test area? The first one, the test area supports various attributes that allow customization and interactivity. All right. And the first one is name. It specifies the name of the test area used when submitting form data. So, in short, all of your form elements, they must have name attributes, because whenever we are collecting data, whenever we want to collect the data, want to collect the form data, this name is very, very, very important. So make it a habit. All your elements, form elements, must always have name, attribute, and the value. So we also have another one called rows. Now the rows define the number of lines in the test area. So if I go back now, I take this guy out. If I go and say, I'll give name could be, I say comment. Then I will give rows. How many rows do I want? Let's say I just want 5 rows. So this is going to determine the length. Okay, it's going to determine the height. Sorry, rows will determine the height. Okay, the height of the test area. So if I go back to the browser, you can see it has increased. Okay, but if I reduce it to, let's say, instead of 5, I reduce it to 2. you can see it would, the size reduces. So it's just 2 rows. This is row like this, row like this. So we just say we want 2 rows. And moreover, the user can also expand like this, okay? So now, apart from the row attribute, we also have the column calls. It specifies the width of the test area in terms of the number. All right, the width. So if I say I want column to be, if I say I want it to be 20, all right, it's going to determine the width. This is going to determine the width. All right, look at it. If I increase it to 40, let us say the width would definitely increase. The width will definitely increase. So the rows attribute, all right, determines the height, while the calls attribute determines the width. So you will be the one to actually give this is depending on how you want to style it. It's up to you. How many rows do you want? How big do you want it to be? What's the height like? So it's up to you. So you use the rows and the calls to actually do all this. So you can also give a placeholder. Right? Most of us we have seen placeholder self value. So I can just say placeholder. I can say enter your comment, whatever your placeholder could be. So of course, if I go now, I'm going to see it here. Didn't I save? It's like I didn't save. I did. Um, why is it not showing? Any mistake? No. Why is it not showing? Oh. Hmm. Ah, okay. So maybe because I have this empty space, and this space can, when you have space, the placeholder would, when you have something in it, the placeholder wouldn't show. So let me see why. It's not even it. So why? Oh. One of those things to debug again. I don't know why this is not really showing the placeholder. Mm, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Um, Placeholder. I got this correctly. Okay. Or maybe let me take this test area outside of this label and see. Okay. When things go like this, it's still not a problem. Wow. Okay. I don't really know why. My placeholder is spelled correctly now. Okay, okay, okay. What could be the issue? What could be the issue? Okay, let me take these guys out. What I'm actually doing here is now is debugging. I am debugging. I don't know where the issue is coming from, so I just have to check every possible thing. This is a logical error. It's not the syntax error that is easy to find. So my test area, this is name. Wow, what is happening? Okay, if I can't find it, I'll just have to continue. All right. Hmm. For some reasons, I do not know why. If I say place, okay, hello. Really? Okay. I really don't know why. I really don't know why. I really don't know why it's not showing, but we'll have to move on. Okay. So now we also have the inner test, the content between the opening and the closing test area. tag serve as the default text inside the field. So you can see here, the inner text is anything inside here. So if I go on and say, if I put anything in here, hello, all right, this is inner text. So if you want it, you can actually have it, but it will always show, all right, it will always show here, all right? So then if it is I want to now type, they can actually delete it. Okay, so this is inner text, and this is actually whatever the user types in here, you can also use the inner text attribute to get it. All right, so what about interaction? So you can disable another attribute of the text area is that you can disable it, and when you disable it, it's going to be graded out. All right, and you cannot interact with it. So if we go and say, since our placeholder doesn't want to work, so you say disable, just put it disabled like this, disabled. So once you do this, it will no longer be interactive. Say you cannot interact with it. You can't do anything with it. All right. It is disabled. You can't do anything with it. All right. So if you don't want users to interact with what is inside, you can disable it. All right. Use the disabled attribute. Okay. You can also make it read only by using the read only attribute. It makes the text read only, allowing text selection, but not editing. Users can actually just read it only, and the required ensures that we have seen the required attribute in the input element. When you say required, you cannot submit the form without doing that. So let's go back to, I'll make it read only. I'll remove the disabled, and I'll make it read only. All right. So read only, I can only read it. I cannot edit it. You see, I can only read it. I cannot edit it. I can't edit it. Okay. I can also make it required. I can also make it required. So you can actually use all these attributes based on how you want your application to work. So if I make it required and I delete this, if I submit this button, okay, sorry, it is supposed to submit. Let me go back and say my code is not supposed to submit. If it ensures that the field must be filled out before form submission. So here I didn't actually fill it out anything. I'll go back. Okay, I've deleted everything. So if I try to submit, it's submitting. But the thing is this, once it is required, I don't really know what is happening with, once it is required, all right? Okay, sorry, I'm so sorry. It is required and it is submitting because of we have a value here. The inner text is a value. So please, I'll have to remove it. All right, I'll have to remove it and let's try again. Okay, so I do this. Wow, it's still submitting. It's still submitting. Okay. Anyways, we are not really looking at the full form submission yet, but if just like with the input element, with the required, when you actually use this key, this attribute required, all right, the form will make sure that it is filled out before submitting it, and I will still have to, because empty string is also a string. I would want to understand why it is behaving. It's still submitting. All right. The required isn't, I don't know, for some reason, it isn't working out for me. And also the required and the placeholder. But these are things that are actually very possible. I don't know why it's not working out for me here. All right. So try it your side and give me your feedback. Give me feedback. When you try it, let me know if the required and the placeholder worked for you. Sometimes our machine can be misbehaving, and if you restart the system, everything comes back normal. But I don't see the reason why the required and this is not working. They are supposed to work. Okay, so you can also, if you don't want to, if you want to control, if you don't want, now look at it. If we go back to here, you can see that we can resize it. right? So if you don't want it to be resized, all right, you need to use this attribute. You used to use CSS, all right, you use the resize property and set it to none. So if I go now, I can come here and say, I will say style, and I'll say, sorry, I will say resize. I'll give it none. So I don't want you to resize it. So if I go now, you can see that that icon is no longer available again. So you cannot resize it anymore. You can't resize it. You can't resize it anymore. Okay, you can't resize it because we have used the CSS attribute and the CSS property, and we gave it none, so we cannot resize it. You can also give it maximum length, just like we have also seen in other attributes. The max length says the maximum number of characters allowed. So if you want the maximum length to be 200, 150, that means users cannot type more than that. You can also do the minimum length. Okay, so this is something I would want you to do on your own. You check out the maximum length, check out the minimum length, test it. When you do the max length, go and test it. Type something that is more than the maximum length and see whether it will contain it. But it will not. All right. So we also have the wrap auto sizing. Now with this wrap, it specifies that the text should wrap inside the text area. So the first one is soft. Okay. Text doesn't wrap. Scroll bars appear if the text overflows. So when you have, okay, let me do something here. Okay, so I could actually, okay, let me still leave this one here. I will say wrap, and I will say soft. And let's go and see. Okay, so I'm just going to do lorem. Let me just generate some text. Okay, maybe I'll take this one. All right. Then I'll paste it here. You can see it's wrapping. All right. So when you use wrap to be soft, the text doesn't wrap. Scroll bars appears if the text overflows. So there are scroll bars appearing because the text overflow. So when we go back to the browser, we can see that our text overflow. That is why our text is more than what we have here. That is why we are having these scroll bars. And we said the wrap value to be soft, but when we make it hard, the text wraps and includes line breaks in the form submission. So let us see what the value hard gives us. Okay, it still basically give. Did I save? I think I did. Okay, and okay, so with the when you specify how the text should wrap inside the text area. Now, when you say soft, the text doesn't wrap. Scroll bars appear if the text overflows. When you say hard, the text wraps and includes the line breaks in the form submission. Okay, so we have seen how to use the tool. So now, let's see a couple of examples, okay? We have already seen examples. So we have seen the label and the text area. We have seen the rows. We have seen the calls. We have seen the placeholder, although it didn't work out for me here, okay? We can also have limited input. Where you can actually use the maximum length. You want to have limited input. You don't want users to just keep putting anything. So you can actually have the limited input here and give a placeholder, all right, telling them the maximum characters they can input. You can also make it read-only, all right? You can make it read-only. This content is read-only, all right? You can make it read-only. We have already seen all these ones. You can also give it a style and give it height and width, okay? Accessibility tips. Always associate a label with a text area for better accessibility, always. You have to always. So for us now, we'll have to take this test area back inside this label so that it has this implicit association, okay? So use the area label or area labeled by attribute for additional accessibility. We will talk about this area labeled and area labeled by when we talk about accessibility. So, but it is advisable that you use them for accessibility, but we'll talk about, we don't understand it yet, but when we talk about accessibility, we are going to explain what they mean, okay? So what are the differences from other input elements? This test area is always multi-line, whereas the input element is just single line. The test area can contain default content inside its opening and closing tags, but the input type cannot. All right. So this is the much we can take for test area. And I urge you to do your test and do your assignment. Don't use ChatGPT to do your assignment. Even if you want to use ChatGPT, just make sure you understand the code ChatGPT is generating for you. But it's very lazy of you if you're using ChatGPT. Write the code yourself. If you find anything difficult, reach out to me. Reach out to your instructor. All right. Reach out to your instructor. If you cannot write the code yourself, you cannot do the assignment yourself, reach out to me, okay, or your instructor. Thank you very much. I will see you in the next session.